George, when he talked to me about doing this, he said I'd have, about 20 minutes. And as George well knows, you can only do so much with a group of people in 20 minutes. But we'll start with that. I'm going to very diverse group here. Normally I'm talking technical, or I'm talking career, or different avenues. And with this group, I'm going to go over an international flight, go along some of the steps that are taken, and then at the end, really leave time for questions, because this always ends up going some direction that I wasn't going. So we can start with the international flight, then I want to talk a little bit about post-airline flying since 9/11, and a few security questions.
Get that mic a little bit.
And then leave from there. Is that the rain?
Yes.
We rotate the plane. I'm going to do a few numbers as I go along, and then back away from the numbers and go into it, so I don't get too much on the technical side. I'm presently flying an Airbus 330, 300 passengers when we take off going over to Europe. Gross takeoff weight of just over 500,000 pounds. We take off at a gross weight of 515. Engines, Rolls-Royce, putting out 72,000 pounds of thrust. And fuel, if we load it up with fuel, which we never do, people don't understand why we don't take off the full tanks, but there's a lot of reasons for that. We can put up to 244,000 pounds of fuel on it, which is just over 37,000 gallons of fuel. So it's a big load of fuel to get across. Now let's start off. I was been flying London, but when I looked at this, something I'd used before, I was flying a lot of Paris. So let's look at a Charlotte to Paris flight. I normally arrive at operations about 2 hours prior to departure, and I work with our dispatcher. Our dispatcher is someone in Dallas. He has all the information in front of him. He's working with weather planning. He's working, he has all worldwide weather in front of him. He's working with maintenance, and sort of my go-to guy about everything to do with the flight. And normally we get into a discussion, sometimes a long discussion over fuel load. He and I need to agree on this, and sometimes it comes back to me. But when you're working on a flight, fuel comes first, passengers come second, and cargo comes third. And we're working up to this 500,000 pounds. So when I look at it and look at weather and look at my alternates, that normally I say I want some more fuel, because something I don't like. For an example, I don't like an alternate with a single runway. I don't like an alternate that sits on a river, because fog's be coming in off the river. So several parameters I'm looking at, and so then when I start upping the fuel load, we start having to take cargo off, and of course, American Airlines cargo is money, but I have to say so and pulling the cargo off. Normally going to Europe, it's about 140,000 pounds of fuel, which means our tanks are about 60% full going across. For the crew, for the upfront crew, is myself as a captain. I have a first officer and an RO, which is an international relief officer, which we always keep 2 on the flight deck, and when the other 2 take their breaks, leaves 2 on the flight deck, 3 on the flight deck for takeoff and landing. After I discuss this and get my fuel load, my weights worked out, and I'm satisfied with the maintenance status of the aircraft, I brief the rest of the crew. I carry 9 flight attendants. So I go into another room with the pilots that I briefed while I was talking to dispatch, and we go in, we talk to the 9 flight attendants, we go over security concerns, passenger concerns, any problems. Sometimes I know about them ahead of time, and really take care of them before we leave. Obviously, I'm going to get to security later on, but obviously security is a big deal these days. So once all that is done, an hour prior, I head out to the aircraft, and then I meet someone that's head of maintenance on the aircraft, and we start discussing the maintenance status of the aircraft. I look at the write-up for the crew that brought it in previously. Normally it's on the ground for 4 or 5 hours while we do checks. It requires more checks for international flights, and we go over something we call MELs and clear the logbook. Then we start doing programming. Normally takes about 40 minutes to do all the programming. We have several computers to program, and it's just like computers in your home. Sometimes you have to reboot, sometimes you have to bring them back up. And we go over the briefings for takeoff and the routing as we go up the coast. Once we've pushed back, I'll go ahead and get us to push back. We'll start. Once the engines are started, then you do your checks, your operational checks over once the engines are running and all the systems are powered up. You do a pre-check, and then after you start up, you do a post-check on as we're taxiing out to the runway. Sometimes when you're sitting at the gate and it's past departure time, normally it's due to either cargo being loaded, cargo being taken off because I've decided I wanted more fuel on board, and then working out the weight and balance. I'm going to talk about weight several times in the next few minutes. Weight is a big deal. It's what it's all about. All your performances are working on weight. Keep in mind, before I take off, I know the basic weight of the aircraft. I know exactly the weight of fuel. That's why we work in pounds of fuel and not in gallons of fuel. The one thing, and I know the cargo for checked baggage, the one weight I do not know that's been estimated is the weight of the passengers and the weight of the carry-on baggage. We use the summer weights and our winter weights. I do not know those weights. I can safely take off and start my climb out not knowing those exact weights. But once I get up to altitude, I need to know those exact weights. So it comes to, when do I know those exact weights? The plane weighs itself once we're off the ground. And I won't go into, I could go into a lot of technical sides of how it does that, but as many of you technical backgrounds in a formula, there's three ways. If you know two of the numbers, you can find out the third number. But it's the same way. For an aircraft at a certain speed, at a certain angle of attack, but at a certain, the wing going through the air at a certain angle, there's only one exact weight that can be. So once I take off, then I know an exact weight, and that's very important in my climb and in my final altitude. So we take off, we know our weights, we start heading up the East Coast, and let's see, we could probably go over Norfolk, we could go over to the right of New York, we could go over Boston, go up into Canada over Goose Bay, start off, so we're doing this great circle route. And when I talk to high school classes, I tell everybody go home, because they won't believe it. I said go home, get your string, get your globe, do your direct route, and then do your direct circle route, move it over the top of the globe, and it's a shorter route. But so they go home and pull the globes out, and the world globe and figure that out. But I'm heading up the coast. Then is a time when things get busy, because I'm working on something called the North Atlantic. We get on the tracks. They're called NAT tracks, North American tracks. We're getting on the tracks. I'm working with Gander up in Canada, and later on at 30 West, I'll switch over to Shanwick for the European operation. But I'm working on a track and an altitude and a clearance. And then once that comes in by. We have a printer in the cockpit. Now I go to HF radios and talk to them. But once I get that has to be verified, and then the routing has to be set up, because as soon as we get into that space, we aren't in radar contact, so we have to work out our spacing. So we have to stay right on a certain speed. Normally we're up into, depending on my weight, how I can go. First of all, a jet. It's better at altitude due to colder temperatures. The jet performs better in cold, dry air. So I want to get as high as I'm able to get for the best fuel burn. Normally I'll start off at like 38,000 feet. I'm running 0.82 Mach, and I'm locked in on the tracks, and everything is checked and good. That's about a 30 or 45 minute operation. In these charts that I have here, we actually, even though with all the computers, we still plot the charts out. going across. This happened to be a return from London, but we plot the charts out on the tracks. Then it comes a time which is very nice for me, because I'm able to have dinner, and just as we're hitting the tracks, it's my time to go back to the back and sleep for an hour. So I go back to the back behind the cockpit. We have a bunk room that has beds in it. I can go back there and lay down for a couple hours and have a phone there. If any problem, they can call me, and then the other two pilots stay up front. Then we rotate across, rotate out as we go across. Going over to Europe, about 8 hours going, 9 hours coming back due to your winds. Obviously, when we're going, we try to get into if it's not turbulent, get into the jets to help push us across. Coming back, normally, especially in the wintertime, you take more of a northern route so that you can stay out of the jet streams and go up over Iceland, south of Iceland, tip of Greenland, come down over Canada, and sometimes we go far enough north that we actually coming down close to the Great Lakes to come back down onto the East Coast to get again the Great Circle route. As fuel burns, I try to climb. Normally I have to burn off 20 to 25,000 pounds of fuel, be able to climb up to 39 to 40,000 feet as I'm coasting in over into Europe. Going into Europe, it's going over, let's see, we'll go over Ireland, we'll go over England, and then on into Frankfurt, Paris, or wherever we happen to be going. On our descent, we're getting back into briefing the weather. Obviously, over in Europe, we land early in the mornings. There's obviously a lot of fog, so we get the weather, we get the winds. Obviously, you want to land going into the winds. We get the holding information. You just about always have to hold for 10 to 40 minutes going into London, because they only have two runways, and we get stacked up going into Heathrow. And then we go in for the approaches. On the plane that I'm flying, 330's got a very good landing system. People asked me a while back, I was giving a talk and something with all the computers, how often we land the airplane and how often do we let the computers land the airplane? Well, I really didn't know the answer to that. I had to go back and look through my logs, and I looked back over the past year. I had made one auto land, and the rest of them had been manual landings. Normally we prefer manual landing because it's just easier. It takes so much to set up an auto land unless the weather is to the point that you actually can't see the runway. On this aircraft, we can land not seeing the runway. At 100 feet is the last check we do. We do many checks coming down on the approach, because we have dual autopilots that are bringing it down, and dual auto land systems that actually can come down and track the center line of the runway once it lands. So we're coming down, at 100 feet, there's a call out that I make, and if I can electronically see the runway, which means I can't see the runway, if I electronically can, by the beams, know where the runway is, and I come in and go ahead and land. Keeping in mind that when I land, I'm 50 feet in the air, and the main gear is 75 feet behind me. So you land, and then as the nose, I start bringing the nose down, I can start picking up these center line lighting. So it's a very good landing system when you need it. Fortunately, you don't need it that often, because normally weather's not down to something we call 300 to 400 RVR to lead you into that. Once we get into the well, let me go back. First of all, people ask on takeoff and rotation, we rotate at about 160 knots coming off the runway, and on landing we're going to touch down at about 140 knots, obviously due to burning off the fuel coming across. On crossing, sometimes we burn 100,000 pounds of fuel. Obviously, we're a lot lighter on the landing. So we land, we taxi in, we shut down. We're about 8 hours into this, and So then we start headed, people ask, what do you do once we get there? Well, we have a bus that picks up the crew at 12, takes us downtown, and normally, most people on a close schedule to this, 3 or 4 hours, I like to go in and sleep for 3 hours, then get up, head out for several hours of walking in Europe. As you know, you walk most places, and I walk for several hours, then come back and meet the crew and go out to dinner, then come back and get 7 or 8 hours sleep. Then on the ground, by the time we come back, a total of about 30 hours. Of course, I told Sharon, I fly with Sharon's husband's son, and John's one of these people that I don't care where you land in the world, he knows some blues band is playing somewhere in that city that you've never heard about. So if I'm flying with John, I follow him and we go, and cuts a little bit into the sleep, but we go and we listen to some good music. Coming back, once we reverse flight coming across, same thing as add an hour to the flight coming back and landing in Charlotte. On the way there and back, we obviously, if you head into the West Coast, if you have a problem, you got many alternates to go to. A lot of runways below. You're heading across the Atlantic, you don't. So we do something called en route alternates, where before we take off, we normally pick 3 alternates, triangulate it out, and we never want to be over 2 hours from an alternate. If you lose an engine or you have a mechanical problem, to be able to get to that alternate. So going across the Atlantic, normally we will use Lodges, which is in the Azores. Well, starting off going eastbound, let's go with Goose up in Canada, Goose Bay, Lodges in the Azores, and then probably Keflavik, which is in the south part of Iceland. And by that time, you're doing coast in, and you can use Shannon going into Europe. But we've made the flight over, we've made the flight back, and now we are, the schedule normally, I fly 3 days, and I'm off 4 days. And as George has just asked me, because he's seen so many addresses on me, he said, where do you actually live? And I said, well, I have a place down on Amelia Island, so I said, nice weather to do this. And then I call my man cave up north of here on a lake in the middle of 7 acres where there's no people. So I say somewhere between those places, come enjoy a few days and go back and do it again. It's tomorrow night I'm flying to London. I would like to go over a few things post 9/11. Obviously, a lot happened on 9/11. A lot changed in the aviation world. There's a lot more security. It's hassle, I know, for passengers and for crews. Also, there's a major amount of intelligence briefings we get on what's going on in the world. There's still a lot of people out there wanting to hurt Americans, and we really stay on that and work with the State Department. And a large part of my briefing is getting the security for the areas. The security on the airplane, I can't say a whole lot about, but we have flight deck officers, and then we have FAMs, Federal Air Marshals. They do a great job, and they're several of them, normally on a European flight, in the back. I brief with them before we go. You won't know them, I promise you, by the way they diverse and they dress. But obviously, their main concern is protection of the flight deck, and they do a great job with that. If you're on an aircraft and there is a little disturbance, just listen. Because first of all, the flight attendants cover it and they handle a lot of it. And the marshals don't even get involved till later on. And that's purposely designed that way. So just listen to the flight attendants. If they ask for your help with something, do it. If someone stands up and announces himself as an air marshal, get on the floor. Because something's getting ready to happen. And they are, I have to really think what I can. They're well trained, and actually, because of the environment they work in, they do firearms training more than FBI and more than the Secret Service. They are very, very good at what they do, because obviously they can't do a lot of things they can't damage, or we're in trouble. With that being said, let's see, Postal Level Security. I'll open for a couple of questions, and if there are no questions, I'll some other topics that come up. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yes, go ahead.
Do you speak several languages, or do you have an interpreter with you, or is English the language everybody speaks?
I speak Southern, and I speak English. To answer your question, the international language is English. So all the other countries have to speak English. The hardest to understand in the world are the French. But we somehow get along. Sometimes they're real big on the way they will nav aids and intersections pronounced. And so, but we get along. One of them said something one day, and I reminded him, if it weren't for the Americans, we'd be pronouncing this in German. So we will get through this. But yes, international languages. And most of them are very, very good with it. Any other questions? Hey, Roland, didn't know you were here. Okay, Roland asked what was the takeoff and landing distance on the Airbus 330. Again, depending on temperature, depending on altitude. But let's call it a standard day of 59 degrees. Takeoff roll could be about 7,000 to 8,000 feet. And landing distances could be about 5,000 feet. Depending on when we land, how much reverse we're using, and which in Europe is very noise sensitive, and they have good runways, so they ask us that we not pull our full reverse on landing. So if we don't need it, we don't do it. Any other questions?
Is there a performance preference or issue why the American airline industry continues to buy Airbuses versus Boeing?
Well, no,
Just repeat the question.
yeah, okay. He's asking, the main manufacturers in the world are Airbus and Boeing, and they obviously compete with each other. And what the preference is, you said, for American companies buying both of those. Both companies, I was just reading an article on China this morning. It's just like any business decision. You don't want to go all with one company. So most fleets of the largest airlines, which the big three in the world, buy about half and half, just to keep it competitive. And back in the 80s, I worked in management, and we would bring in. It was on purpose. On the same day, we'd have two different manufacturers land at the airport with their airplanes, and have them sit there looking at each other. But it's just trying to get the list price on the aircraft I fly is $150 million. Well, obviously there's some negotiating power there. So you negotiate between the two companies, and you negotiate on engines. See, engines are $15 million. A lot of times your engines. Some of our airplanes have Rolls Royce on them, and some of them have Pratt & Whitneys. And again, you go out and negotiate over those engines, being that they're 15 million for an engine. Any other questions?
I thought we had a classless society until I've spent a lot of time flying in the last few years specifically.
Yeah.
Why don't we just board the doggone plane from the back to the front?
Okay.
It can't be rocket science.
Good.
We waste so much time.
Okay, let me tell you why you do that. They had you boarded by the zones, didn't they?
Yes.
When you board from the front to the back, then the people who sit in the aisle seat, the other people come and climb over. If they'd explain what zoning is, when they board by zone, they're trying to get the window seats in first, then get the middle seats, and then get the aisle seats. When you board from front to back, everybody's climbing over each other. That takes longer than doing zone boarding.
It's just that the people.
That's what they're doing. They're
People
laying
in the
out
window never come on time.
Well, but then you're working with the public. You have people who, well, gosh, I want to sit by Aunt Susie, and they'll go to their assigned seats. But you're trying to get 300 people boarded. And and let me say this: I'm where I need to be. I would last about 10 minutes in the back. So that would not. I call it. I switch gears, and George knows what I'm talking about. I call my Robin Knowles personality, and I just can't. I have to set things. But that's the reason. Now let me tell you something amazing. You have these 300 people on there, and the flight attendants who do a fantastic job. They can get all 300 people off the airplane if you listen to them with half the exits blocked in 90 seconds. But it has to be moving. We've got time for another question. Go ahead. Yeah.
Could you explain the braking system of the engines on the plane?
The braking system?
How it works?
Okay, reverses. Okay. When you land, and we talk about pulling reverse, the engines don't reverse. The buckets come out the side of the engine, and the thrust is reversed. Buckets come in and catch thrust and send it forward to help with your stopping. Reversing engines is the most inefficient way of stopping the aircraft. It's stopped by brakes and the spoilers that come up on the wings and kill them. That's what stops it. The difference in no reverse and reverse is probably only about 500 feet. I mean, which if you're 500 feet in the mud off the end, that's a big deal. But it's normally not your main source of stopping the aircraft. Thank you.